Dudes, what's happening? It's Trent, and today I've got for you the Cyborg Ninja Kid. This is a piece that was done for Sketchbook Pro. They're doing a kind of a winter 2017 Winterland kind of a theme. I, of course, did two. One of them was a little bit kind of sketchy, kind of a loose, sketchy dealio, and I wasn't thrilled with this one when I did it because I didn't feel like it fit the theme. But they saw it and they were like, "It's all right with us. This is cool. We like this. We're going to use both." So 2 for 1. I thought at least I could do a video about this one and kind of showcase a little bit more about this kind of technique that I'm playing around a little bit with. And this gives me an opportunity to dig into some of the more deep features of Sketchbook Pro. So buckle up. Let's dig into the Cyborg Ninja winter thing piece. You know, John Lennon said they don't throw anything out. They use everything, and he was a Beatle, so he knew what he was doing. So when I started out, my initial thoughts were that I wanted to do something that kind of felt like an old Japanese sumi-e kind of a painting, but using like cyborg ninjas. And if you never watched any old Kurosawa films, there was a dude named Akira Kurosawa, and he made a epic film that's often touted as one of the greatest films ever made. It was called The Seven Samurai, and this is a film that inspired The Magnificent Seven, and there's been a number of films that were inspired by this particular film, but it was just this incredible cinematography, the framing of everything. Really powerful black and white film. It's like the first time that you ever see an army of raiders coming over a hill, that you've seen this kind of a shot. When you watch this, you might go, "Oh, that kind of looks like this other film," or "kind of looks like this other film." No. Akira Kurosawa invented that shit back in the 50s. So anyway, I was inspired heavily by some of the cinematography from old Akira Kurosawa films, black and white. I always thought if I were a filmmaker, I'd be doing black and white films, which is why I'm not a filmmaker, because nobody would watch them. It's an underappreciated art form that's sort of just gone away. It's considered niche or artsy, too artsy for most people. So if you ever want to improve your compositional skills, really just dig into this movie, freeze frame a shot, any shot, and study how the camera frames all of the action, and the negative space versus the silhouetted, the important shot that's Toshiro Mifune, like a madman. Epic shot composition. In fact, I would venture to say that no one else has even come close, except for maybe George Miller in the film Mad Max Fury Road. Comes close. They did a chrome version of that. It was pretty epic. Really great shot composition in that as well. A lot of movement going on, but it still keeps the sense of location of where you are in each shot. So these are some of my inspirations, some of the influences that I had when I was doing this piece. In terms of the technique, I'm going to dig in a little bit more in the dissectional later, but I want to just talk briefly about some of the brushes that I'm using and why I'm doing it in this style. One, I'm trying to eliminate or find a balance between the line art work that I do, keeping the unformed or unfinished sketchy looseness. I'm really digging into, and maybe it's just where I'm at with my skill level or my development, but I overworked myself for a long period of time on minuscule details and getting down to the pixel. And now I'm zooming out sort of and going for high impact. And what that means is like I blob out silhouettes of things, and then I keep a lot of the loose sketchy lines because they have energy. They have a kind of a flow, a kind of a looseness that it takes me back to my old comic book days. And yet it's not just line art with edges around everything. There was a period of time when I was really into that kind of One Piece or Naruto or manga style of line art, really heavily influenced by Terada. But now I'm backing way off and I'm going a lot more with this kind of a highlighted edges around things, really focusing the shadow areas so that you have this high level of contrast around the important part of each image. So I wanted to go in real time and talk a little bit more about that. So one of the things that I do to create that strong edge lighting is I'll try to kind of keep a large area of my image with negative space. So this whole area, all this white here and light, low contrast elements are kind of reading as negative space. And I'll blow out that edge here literally by going in with my oil brush tool. Now, if you are unfamiliar with my brushes, this is kind of like an oil brush, and I do a tutorial on how to make this, but you could also download it from my Gumroad channel if you don't want to make your own brushes. If you want to just grab mine and kind of get this effect really easily, you can just follow the link in the description below. But basically, it's an oil brush that kind of, I've modified it to kind of feel a lot more like a sumi-e brush. So you get these kind of little brush spatters and chaotic, unexpected lines from it. It also smudges really nicely, and then in combination with some of my other brushes, you can get some like noise so that it feels like ink that's been spattered. So this creates an almost sumi-e style of rendering. And then what I do is I take that and then I go in and I'll find my areas where the lighting, so in this case, the lighting is coming in from this side. Let me use a color that we can see. So our lighting is kind of coming in from this side, and I'm faking a lot of things because the snow is also going to be really blown out too. So we could assume that this is maybe snow cover on his arm as well, but it could be light reflecting. But here it was like, I think I just completely painted out. There used to be an edge here if I were to zoom in. When I had sketched it, you can see everything's very super sloppy and loose. I didn't even draw fingers. So I used to, the way that I would do things last year in my work is I would have drawn this edge and then maybe like, you know, do a pattern thing here and then like go in and maybe like define the leather straps. I was very much into kind of like a terrata kind of a level of detail, and that was a fun place to be, but it was also very time consuming, and so it took me forever to do any kind of a painting. So now what I do is I'll literally go in with a big white oil brush and I'll white out that whole edge because the lighting is coming in from the side. This also works for areas where there is a lot of snow buildup, but I felt like in some cases I needed that edge still. You'll notice right here specifically, I've actually gone in and even drawn in that edge line, and I left it in. And the reason, it doesn't really have to be there, but I felt like it just needed a little bit more line work right there, because right here I've completely painted it out. So your eye kind of fills in this idea that there's snow buildup on this. In fact, we could just paint in that background behind this and give more form and shape to this element. Let me zoom in so you can see what I mean. You can see here where the higher that contrast is, the more it creates this illusion that the light on top of this, the snow on top of this, is just blowing it out. So if we go in with a white brush, we can actually just paint in. This is essentially just painting with negative space, but it creates a nice snowy effect, especially with snowy scenes. And really this whole thing was kind of done that way. The other thing to keep in mind is values. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in my next video, but one of the things you can do to really separate out your objects, if you're going with kind of a contrast piece like this, is to make a selection. And I'm going to do this kind of sloppy here. But if you have this selected and then you hit that with an airbrush on a darken layer or a multiply layer, it's going to separate out the contrast from the background a lot. So if we switch that on and off, you can see how it really brings out that contrast here. And you can really make your character pop that way. And in fact, this wouldn't have been a bad idea to do here. The way that I got the color effect that you see here, where things that are sort of in the background have this warmer tone, and then things in the foreground have this lighter tone. It's a multi-stage process, and I've talked about this in other videos, so I'll just kind of quickly cover it here. But essentially, I create another layer. I set that to color burn, and then I pick like an orange or something like that, and then I fill the whole image. Oop, I have that selected still. So deselect, fill the whole image, and then back it way off. And then what I do is I'll flatten the whole image, and then I make a selection using this selection tool. This is the magic wand tool, and I'll select everything that is a certain color that I want. I'll copy that onto a new layer. You'll see here it's on a new layer. And then what I'll do is I'll lock that layer, and then I can hit it with an airbrush. So let's say I wanted that to be purple. I can now just paint that element with the airbrush. And you could use any brush for this, really. It doesn't matter. But it won't paint outside of what's there. And this actually kind of creates like a neat cyberpunk look. But it'll only affect what I had copied onto that layer. And I could, of course, back it off or whatever I want. So that's the way I got that effect. So dudes, that about wraps it up for me on this Ninja Boy, Cyborg Ninja Boy, kind of a drawing. I want to thank you so much for stopping by. If you are hardcore about drawing digital art and you want to learn all my secrets, I have more close to real-time videos really breaking down the process of every brush stroke available on my Gumroad channel, along with all of my brushes and a lot of industry insights into working as a concept artist in the video game industry, how to get work, how to get paid to draw, things of that nature. It's all in there. Lots of portfolio tips and things like that. Super useful, super effective stuff. You don't need art school. It's overrated anyway. But dudes, most importantly of all, if you're going to draw a cyborg ninja boy in the snow, you should draw a cyborg ninja dude in the snow with some freaking passion, man. Oh, yeah.